Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first Train the Trainer session on Side Stream Potential, and thank you for joining us today. My colleague Maider here with us is sending again the link to this webinar because apparently some people haven't received the email. So we are going to wait one more minute just to do so, and we will begin. Thank you. Okay, so let's begin. If you agree, Maider, it's fine? Okay. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Olga de Blas, Project Coordinator at Food and I, the Agri-Food Innovation Cluster of the Ebro Valley, located in the north of Spain. At Food and I, we work to connect primary producers, the food and beverage industry, food tech startups, and technology centers, turning fragmented efforts into coordinated innovation ecosystems that can compete and scale. And Food and I is proud to coordinate the Bioeconomy Giants project. This CBEAU initiative brings together 18 partners and is designed to empower farmers and foresters as central actors in the bioeconomy while supporting regional ecosystems and creating new value networks. As you know, primary producers remain largely disconnected from the bioeconomy value chain, a challenge identified as a critical bottleneck for the development of a competitive and inclusive European bioeconomy. Despite being the backbone of biomass availability, farmers and foresters often lack the connections, capabilities, and resources needed to move beyond the role of raw material suppliers and actively participate in bio-based value creation. This situation is driven by fragmented collaboration across the bioeconomy ecosystem, a persistent skills gap in the primary production sector, and limited access to funding for capacity growth and market stimulation of bio-based products. Bioeconomy Giant has been designed to respond directly to this challenge by improving cooperation, building capabilities, and allowing primary producers to create new circular and cooperative bio-based business models. And this is what we are doing in Giants. We are fostering new forms of cooperation among primary producers and bio-based industries through circular and cooperative bio-based business models across Europe. Our value proposition is built around three core pillars that respond directly to the needs of these rural stakeholders. First, funding through a cascade program supporting pilot and scale-up activities for new bio-based solutions. Second, digital tools, including Compi for cooperative governance design and Climate Kicks impact services for environmental self-assessment and decision support. And third, training delivered through a European-wide capacity building program that includes targeted modules, regional workshops, and of course, our Train the Trainers initiative, the focus of today's session. With that, I would like to hand over to Maider, who will guide you through the session today. Maider, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So as Olga has mentioned, Olga, you did answer it.
You can go. You can share it now.
But I can see the presentation. Do you want me to share it?
Yeah, you need to share your screen now.
Okay. So as Olga mentioned, what we designed is a train-the-trainers program with a very specific focus on what we call interlocutors for primary producers, which means that we want to enable and help those interlocutors, such as clusters, associations, representative, any entity representing primary producers, in order to boost this development of bio-based value chains. Therefore, let me share with you what the Train the Trainers program looks like. Here, you should be able to see it now. There. So we have a different approach. On the one hand, we have some webinars that we have organized. This is the first one, but focusing on three very relevant topics in order to be able to develop those initiatives. Sectoral potential, which is like the first step in order to collect information and know if you can go or not go on the planning and organization of those initiatives. Also, second step will be the innovative roadmap, and the third one that we will focus on is the circular business models and market update. Those sessions are organized in December, January, and February. So you already have the date for the second one, and the third one will come very shortly. And also materials. So we aim it to cover many different topics and information that can help to build those assessments, but of course we cannot cover all of them with webinars. Therefore, we envisage a way in which we will have those three webinars combined with a release of materials. So together with the webinar, a set of materials will be released. For this first set of materials, we will cover the metrics for measuring knowledge exchange, collaboration, synergies, and networking, also the supporting institutions and collaborative platforms, and also the cluster and network mapping that Olga later on during the session will present very shortly. For the second set of materials, we will look into monitoring and feedback mechanism to track the progress, which is very relevant in order to keep this initiative under development focus, and also the required expertise and skills to develop those initiatives. And the third material that will be delivered together with the webinar plan in February, we will look into funding and support instruments and also communication and visibility tools. So that is everything from my side regarding the webinars and the training sessions. But we have one more step to go in this Train the Trainers program. We will have an in-present event in March. We will let you know more about it in the coming webinars, but the main idea of this event is to present there some examples so that you can really identify entities that have actually carry out all these assessments, consider the funding, consider the side stream potential calculations, they have worked with the regulations, and they have been able to still implement those bio-based initiatives so that you can connect with them also and raise questions, of course. I think that's everything from my side. So I will now focus on today's webinar, which is devoted to the side stream potential okay, just a minute so I can share the presentation for the side stream potential. Yes. Can you see it now?
Not yet, Maider.
Not yet. Okay, let's try it again.
Now, yes, not in presentation mode. Let's wait for the presentation mode. Now it's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start. So we aim to cover today the first or the initial steps when you're thinking about developing an initiatives, because you are either on the agriculture, forestry, or agro-industry sector, and you come up with a feedstock that you would like to valorize and obtain an initial income from this feedstock. But first, we would like to introduce what is this concept of side stream potential, what are the main characteristics and assess parameters that you need to consider in the assessment, what opportunities they can bring to the current or traditional business model, what are the key aspects for this evaluation, and the basic calculation, what you need to consider, what will be the decision points and the next steps once you have checked all this, and there will be hopefully a little bit time for questions. So just to start, what are the objectives? Well, we want to explain what substreams are so we are all in the same page, and why their valorization is very relevant for the primary sector. We want to highlight very shortly some of the opportunities, not all of them, but some of them that are quite significant in terms of cost reduction and new revenue. We want to define what are the characteristics and the parameters of the assessment, and as I mentioned, also some key aspects for the evaluation, a basic calculation, and the decision criteria next step. So, side streams, you might have heard the term residues, the term byproducts. It's any material that can become valuable feedstock for bio-based production or for energy. But what is relevant is that this early assessment can prevent waste to lose the potential. Because if we are able to track when they are produced, how they are produced, what are the specific characteristics, there is a best chance that we will be able to use them to valorize them in an efficient way. So we need to understand also the logistics, so how we are going to move them, because in I would say almost all the cases, except for agro-industry, so for agriculture and forestry, they're produced inside, so in the fields, and they need to be moved to locations where they can be valorized or treated. What we also need to consider is that those materials there are generated alongside with the main product, but they are not intended as the main output of this process. So that would be like the main thing that we need to keep in mind if we want to identify what our side streams from the current process are. They can include residues, byproducts, co-products, but they need to still hold a value in terms of nutrients, energy, materials, which is what we want to valorize and make out a revenue out of it. Let's point out some of the main opportunities. So I'm not going to cover all of them, but just to point out some of them for the three different dimensions. So regarding the environmental dimension, it's quite clear that by using the session to produce alternative materials or energy or any other byproduct, what we are doing is contributing to a circular use of those feedstocks. They can also contribute to improve soil and ecosystem health by, for instance, restoring organic matter or nutrients if we are producing biofertilizer or biocompost. In economic terms, we are contributing to reduce the emissions because the use of the different raw materials have associated an emission in terms of methane, but also smells, but also leakage, for instance, to your soils. So we are contributing to reduce those impacts. We are also producing a new income source because they can become raw materials for biogas, bioplastics, biocosmetic, and therefore contributing to reduce raw materials depletion. We are also reducing the disposal costs, which are continuously increasing because we want to address precisely or promote the circular use of materials in biomass, and therefore there is an endorsement in terms of regulation to promote this kind of initiatives. And we are also contributing to create local jobs by valorizing, because there are new value chains created that require, for instance, for the procurement, for the transport, and so on, new creation of new jobs. But there are also operational benefits, and that's the last dimension that we will focus on in terms of our opportunities. We are contributing to a better efficiency, a more efficient use of the resource by maximizing the outputs we can obtain per hectare or per unit of product. We are also in line with the new regulations. So either at national or European levels, they are increasingly promoting this waste reduction and valorization with the Circular Economy Act or the BIOECONOMY strategy. So we make sure that we are aligned with these new regulations. And a last thing that I would like to point out is also those partnership opportunities that arise from developing these kind of initiatives. Now that we have covered this introduction and just a list of some of the opportunities that are more relevant, I would like to point also some of the specificities. We are working with the primary sector, and that means agriculture, forestry, agro-industries, and there are specificities that should be considered if we want to build those kind of initiatives. From the agriculture sector, what we know is that those streams are highly variable and also seasonal. That seasonality of those fixtures requires to have a logistic associated to be able to make the supply all year long. And those feedstocks are also spread in large areas, which requires a collaboration to be efficient on the transport and storage. So here the main challenge would be the logistic and also the moisture content, because those residues are bulky and also perishable. From the forestry sector, what we have is side streams that are more structural and lignocellulosic, so that has a different way to transform or to valorize. And the extraction routes from mountains and forest areas can be very challenging because there might be very long routes, also with significant slopes, which involves a high cost to extract them. So here the main challenge will be the density and the transport distance, which but also the high moisture that branches or chips, if they have been chips or logs, have. They are also scattered, so all that makes challenging the logistic. They also require, in many cases, procurements, and what needs to be considered in this case is the already existing infrastructure, such as sawmills and so on, which can be part of the valorization process. In terms of agro-industries, it would be a little bit easier because the production, for instance, is concentrated on the agro-industry, so that is already something that helps to be efficient on the logistic, which is reduced, and you will need to focus on the storage. It's more homogeneous in general terms, and it can be easier to characterize, which is something that we would say that is very relevant. So there are strong opportunities for the biochemical extraction, for instance, or industrial symbiosis. Here, the key challenge will be the market alignment and investment costs for this upgrading process. So, coming to the end of this first section, what would be the questions primary producers need to ask themselves? Well, what valuable compounds or energies could I extract, obtain that I'm currently discarding? Can I collaborate with nearby business to share this stream or infrastructures? And is there a local market for whatever bio application you intend to focus on? So fertilizers, biochar, energy, whatever it is. So entering the next section with the characteristics and the parameters for the assessment, there are many characteristics. Each feedstock has very specific ones, but let's focus on the main ones that are common to all of them and need to be like the first step when analyzing this feedstock. We need to know what volume is produced in annual terms, but also if there is a seasonality, as we mentioned, that will determine the economic feasibility. What is the stability in terms of if we have a continuous generation or not? The composition, it's key. So not only moisture content, but also nutrients and very important contaminants. The homogeneity, so we need to test, let's think about a feedstock that is produced all year long. We need to test and take samples at different times of the year to make sure that the feedstock that we are producing is homogeneous all year long. And if not, have it kind of consider if there are difference associated to the season. So if there are difference in terms of moisture content from when it's produced in spring or in autumn and so on. I already mentioned the moisture content, which will be determinant for transport optimization. It will require maybe the need to treat it, so chip it or shred it in order to homogenize this moisture content and be more efficient in the transport. We will need also to optimize the routes of transportation in order to optimize the cost associated to this. Then what would be the main parameters of the assessment? What do we need to assess in this once we have retrieve all the information regarding those main characteristics that we have just listed? We need to carry out an economic feasibility, even if it's a very preliminary one, with all those steps, considering the quantity, the transport, the pretreatments that are needed, all the way up to let's say, the facility where the valorization will take place. We need to also consider supply reliability during all year long. And if in case there are many constraints in this regard, to plan accordingly the storage or intermediate storage and pretreatment facilities that we need to be able to address this reliability of the supply. We need also to have a preliminary scheme of the valorization technologies that we're going to use in a very rough process design. We need also to keep track of sustainability of this scheme that we have designed, to make sure that whatever we are implementing, we are contributing to increase the sustainability and not to decrease it. We need to plan the logistic, as I mentioned, to identify if there is need for intermediate storage or pretreatment facilities. And we need to have a close look into legal and market aspect, just to identify if there are any regulatory constraints that will impact on the valorization of that stream. Just as an example, that might be useful. Let's consider that we have a potato processor that is producing around 2,000 tons per hectare of peels and seeds, which in this case, those peels and seeds will be like their size stream. So they're produced all year long because it's an agro-industry, so that gives us already an idea of what kind of size stream that we have, the amount, when it's produced, if it's homogeneous during all year that we have already mentioned. We will need to carry out lab analysis to confirm that those characters remain the same. And we will need to also monitor those key parameters linked to the quality. So if the moisture differs during the different seasons through the years, and in case of so, how we need to plan accordingly the logistic. We will need also to identify potential valorization by products. Let's think that in this case, associated to the peels and seeds, we can extract lycopene, which is feasible with this volume, and the investment will be also something that we can consider for this homogeneous size stream and the amount that we have produced. So in this case, this initial assessment could deliver a positive go to proceed with the following steps. So what will be those key aspects for the evaluation and basic calculation that we need to perform? So there are two potential methods that are very easy to use for this evaluation. On the one hand, we could carry out a checklist for size stream identification. This checklist will include the volume, needs to be above the minimum. For instance, an average will be 100 tons per year. If it's a continuous generation or not, if the composition is not or easily tested, if there is a low contamination risk, and that will be also need to align with or require lab test in order to confirm this, and if there is on-site space for the storage, okay? So the aim of this checklist is precisely to filter if the quantity and the quality is enough to proceed. A little bit more, let's say, evolved method will be the prioritization matrix. Okay, in this case, what we want to potentially is those in which we obtain medium to high outcomes, let's say, and we will need to we will have different variables to score. So the market interest, if we have an easy collection, if the volume of the term is stable, and if we have, let's say, regulations that contribute or promote the use or the production of byproducts. And we get to the final step, which will be to make out this very basic calculation. So the first thing that we need to calculate is the amount that we are producing. So we need to calculate this amount in terms of either mass or volume. Both can be used. For that, it's quite easy. We need to make calculations or measurements, better say, measurements of the amount that is produced. And the key here is that, as I mentioned before, outside streams are not our main product. So we usually keep track of what is the production of the quantity produced of our main product, but not of the size stream. So what we will be using for this first calculation is considering the amount that is produced for our main product, we will multiply this by a residue to product ratio. So in the literature, there are ratios available for almost all feedstocks, but there is one more thing that we need to consider. So once we have the amount of the primary product known, and we apply the residue to product ratio, we need to apply also or consider also the moisture content, but also the losses. So let's think that for this basic calculation, we have four things to consider. Quantity of the main product, the residue to product ratio, which multiplies. We need to consider the moisture content. I strongly suggest also to keep all those calculations in dry tones, so that we avoid having mixed different moisture contents. And we also need to apply the losses, which means that when we are producing diced stream, let's think about branches in any forest land. Those branches, if we collect them, there will be a certain amount that remains in this forest land that we are not able to collect with the means that we have and to put them in the truck. Once this truck gets to an intermediate facility and is unloaded, there will be also losses once they are, for instance, shipped and back again loaded in a truck to be transported to, let's say, a sawmill. So there are different losses that can take place through the logistic chain, and we need to consider this. So for the cost estimation, we will need to consider transport, storage, and handling. So once we have the calculation of the quantity of volume that is produced, we need for our cost estimation to consider transport, storage, and handling. Okay. Yes. And getting to the final part of this presentation, what will be the decision points and the next step. So once we have these calculations made and we have collected information regarding the key characteristics of the feedstock, we need to decide if we move forward or not. We need to consider some technical studies. When? Well, if the volumes are stable and higher than around 500 tons per year, there is a good chance for a sustainable and feasible valorization scheme. If the composition is known and is characterizable, so we have been able to characterize it all year long. If the collection and logistic are economically manageable, and at least we have been able to identify one valorization pathway that shows positive return and investment potential. If we can cover and answer positively to all those four aspects, then there's a good chance that we need to go to next steps. What will be those next steps be? Well, we need to sample and make a lab analysis to make sure that this composition remains homogeneous. We need to have this feasibility study for process and market. We need to make a pilot testing or small-scale trials with the technology that we have identified. We need to consider this partner engagement for technology providers, for the buyers, and so on. We need to explore funding and collaboration opportunities, and we need to prioritize based on this feasibility and potential. That would be everything in terms of content. I would like to ask any of the participants if they have questions, because we might have a couple minutes for questions.
Thank you so much, Maider. There is just one question regarding if we can download the presentation, and yes, everything is gonna be in our website under the resources section. the PowerPoint, the webinar recording, and also the training materials that Maider mentioned before. But I have myself a question, Maider, as a cluster. And because I know that you have experience in the field, you've been working with the primary sector. And my question is, what should clusters and these intermediary associations really focus on to effectively engage the primary sector actors in byproduct or side stream valorization? Because it's something that we've been working in as cluster, and it's not easy at all. And maybe your experience can help us.
I think that the first step would be to try to identify those that have the higher potential. So those cases that are easy to implement, to develop, because that will be actually they will be in turn engaging other primary producers. So trying to focus on those main actors that already produce a lot of side streams, so they have like a large amount of side streams that could be valorized. And second thing would be to try to focus on let's say very high tier technologies, so not very difficult technologies that are easy for primary producers to work with and don't have many steps in the value chain. So it's easy to convert them to bioproducts that can be in the market. Also, try to focus in many cases, trying to focus on markets that are not that far away from their traditional market. So, for instance, fertilizer and so on those are markets that they already know because they're in contact with them. So that can also be useful in terms of boosting bio-based initiatives development.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maider. And we have another question regarding Renat is asking if we have any feasibility calculations template for preliminary estimations.
Yes and no. That would, I mean, I can actually provide a template. So I can build a template which would be very easy so that you can have this for the calculation. So I will include, as I mentioned, those four. So what is the amount of primary product that you obtain, some ratios as from that you can extract from literature, from some of the feedstock. If you have a specific request for a certain feedstock, let me know so I can provide this specific residue to product ratio, and then the losses and the moisture content, okay?
Okay, Renat, you can maybe send us an email. You can find, yeah, he's saying that for agricultural residues mainly. But
yeah,
you can maybe...
because I mean, the ratios are very specific. For instance, grain from wheat to straw. So it's very specific for the cereals, or very specific for olive in olive branches. So we have ratios that are very specific. So I will need to know the ones that you would like to have. But in any case, I can provide in this template some of them, and yeah, feel free to contact us if you want to have additional ones provided.
He has shared his email address. I can maybe share with you the email and send him an email afterwards.
Of course.
And I think
Looking forward to it.
Don't have any more questions right now. So as Maider mentioned before, we have been preparing also these materials for you. You can find all these training resources in this resources section of our Bioeconomy Giants website under the clusters training. You will have by the end of the week a module or a training material focusing on cluster and network mapping, explaining how to identify key actors, structure local innovation ecosystems, and support primary producers in navigating their collaboration landscape. Also, a detailed overview of supporting institutions and collaborative platforms with MAP, EU, national and local organizations that can advise, fund, or technically support rural actors in developing bio-based initiatives. And we will also have a module on metrics for collaboration and knowledge exchange, including KPIs and frameworks to evaluate networking dynamics, synergies, and cross-sector cooperation. If anyone knows about any other platform or any other regional cluster or organization that can support our bioeconomy value networks, please send us an email and we will be happy to include this information also in these materials. I think this is something that we can build all together. And this is all for these training materials. And this is almost all from this first session. Before saying goodbye and thank you everyone, I would like to briefly highlight our next upcoming session in this Train the Trainer series. It will take place the 21st of January, also from 10 to 11. We are really trying to do this really targeted and focused topic webinars. And our next one is going to be on innovative roadmaps in bioeconomy. We will introduce roadmaps as a strategic tool for clusters, cooperatives, and intermediary organizations to build biomass valorization opportunities, line up actions, and coordinate diverse actors. We will be also covering how to move from the side stream diagnosis to an actionable roadmap. We will share practical tools for prioritization and discuss common barriers and how to overcome them from the perspective of ecosystem leaders. And real case examples will also illustrate how these roadmaps work in practice. So we will stay in touch in the coming weeks. You will receive a follow-up email with this webinar recording, the PowerPoint presentation, and the form to register for our next webinar. But if you miss any information or you need anything, please feel free to reach out, and we will be happy to support you. Maider, I don't know if you want to mention something or just close the session.
Yes, I would like to join Olga to thank you all for the participation. We haven't implemented for this one, but you will receive also an email in which we will have a very short questionnaire, just 3-4 questions to let us know if we have addressed your interest, if any feedback that you can provide will be useful, so that we will integrate this for the second and third webinar. And we are looking forward to connect with you in those upcoming webinars and final event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much and have a nice day. Bye-bye.